Is it worth doing biomedical sciences? Is it worth becoming a biomedical scientist? What's the future of healthcare? What's the future of biomedical scientists? These are all the questions that I'll be answering in my podcast, Biomedical Science and Beyond. I will be the host and the guest. I'll be answering all the questions. Make sure you stay to the end because I'll tell you my honest opinion on what I think. And I don't think anyone will tell you that. But yeah, let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my Biomedical Science and Beyond podcast. Today's episode, I decided to taste my own medicine, as they say. I decided to be the host and the guest because I thought it's better to be transparent and answer those questions that I ask my guests, because I felt it's not fair that my guests, share their experiences, expose their journey, and, sharing it all. And I haven't done that myself. So I thought, to be transparent, why not share my journey? I have shared it when I first started the channel, but at that time and now things have changed a lot. It's like an updated version of that, because now I've been 2.5 years. This is my third year of being self-employed biomedical scientist. I've continued exploring. I've continued learning, researching about the situation. So everything that I'll be sharing with you here is from my own experience and my observations and my predictions. So because I truly believe being a biomedical scientist, your role doesn't just stop as a biomedical scientist just within the lab. And this is why I went self-employed, because I wanted to explore that. So I'll be sharing about my journey, my educational credentials, how being an MLA has helped me in my journey, my real opinion about being in private and NHS. I'm not going to leave anything unless I answer it. Also, what would be my advice? Do I have any regrets? What's the future of the role in general? What do I think? I really don't want you to miss this, because have a cup of tea and come and join me, and I'll be telling you everything. So make sure you stay to the end, because I'll tell you my honest opinion on what I think. And I don't think anyone will tell you that. But yeah, let's go. So I decided to ask all the questions that I asked my guests to myself, because I wanted to be as transparent as possible. So let's start. I consider myself as a scientist with a vision. I'm a UK biomedical scientist. I professionalist work here. I turned into a self-published author. I'm the founder and CEO of Biomedical Science and Beyond, which is a platform for career guidance. And biomedical provides biomedical insights and beyond biomedical science. And that will become clearer later on as we progress. My experiences in the UK diagnostic laboratory, I started in the private, and now I'm private and NHS. I specialize in infection sciences or microbiology. My professional journey to become a biomedical scientist has led to me becoming an author and a writer, and my content creator capacity gave me a fresh perspective on future of work. I always wanted to make a difference, but now my mission is to make a difference through my profession and my passion. I'm very passionate about the future of careers, education, and work. And I'm a firm believer in the power of lifelong learning and self-discovery in order to create a fulfilling and a successful career. And I truly believe also, as a professional, there's always room to redevelop, reskill, and upskill, which I will touch on what that means later on. In case you're new to the channel and you don't know already, what do biomedical scientists do in the UK? Or also we acronym it into BMS. We conduct and investigate a range of laboratory and scientific tests on specimens or samples that have been sent by doctors or nurses to support disease diagnosis, treatment, and monitoring wide range of diseases. Our work as BMSs is important to many hospital departments, including A&E, operating theatres, and the functions we carry out are wide ranging. And our work is essential for medically important conditions such as AIDS, diabetes, cancer, and screening and monitoring a range of diseases, also carrying out tests on emergency blood transfusion. I was born and bred in Abu Dhabi, the capital of UAE, or most people know Dubai, but Dubai is a city in the UAE. But the capital of UAE, or United Arab Emirates, is Abu Dhabi. I was born and raised there, and I finished school there. So obviously, I speak Arabic as well, and I speak English too. And being British and my family British, we moved to the UK so I can start university. Uh, I always loved science, so I decided to study biochemistry degree, which you might, if you don't know me, you'll be surprised being a biomedical scientist. And then I did masters in biomedical science, medical microbiology. And after I qualified as a biomedical scientist, I wanted to challenge myself. So I did a postgraduate certificate in healthcare management and all three different universities. And to top that, I had some top up modules that I had to do from also different universities in order to qualify as a biomedical scientist, which is a very long story. But maybe I should share that in the next slide. So, my journey, career journey, I didn't work straight after I finished my degree. My degree in biochemistry, I didn't know how to use it. And to be very honest, even when I go to events related to my university, when I go back, I said I didn't enjoy the degree. So after halfway, actually, by the second year, I didn't enjoy it. So by in the third year, I was just wanted to pass, and that's it, and get as much as high as grades as I can. I got a 2-2 anyway. I just wanted to pass. So after I finished, I did obviously I had no lab experience. I didn't want to do placement because um, I didn't appreciate the role of laboratory experience at that time. So that was a challenge for me in order to get a job. So I didn't get a job. So I just spent time to on my part-time jobs. I had several part-time jobs. I did different jobs. So I decided to do masters in biomedical science. My mom advised me. She said, "You might as well do masters," and I'm glad that was the best advice given to me. And I did masters in biomedical science. And after completing that, fortunately, I got a job as a research scientist in a drug discovery company. It was a temporary position, but I'm glad I took it, even though I went through a series of interviews. But I was doing my research at that time. I was unemployed for some time as well, but that was after my degree. But after my masters, I was very lucky when I was going to my graduation. I was so happy that I got this job. But then it was temporary, and then I wanted to explore the biomedical science one way or another. One way or another, how? So So anyway, I don't know how I got that lab job. I got an MLA job. It was a private laboratory. Obviously, NHS is extremely difficult to apply for, but eventually I got that job. And when I got that job, it was in specimen reception. I was promised to do the portfolio, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I might have spoken in a previous video, but I'm going to mention it here because I want to emphasize this point. With it, when you're in a company, it's very easy to move around. This is something I wish someone told me. So at that time, working in microbiology was very attractive. So bear in mind, I studied that master's, so I wanted to apply what I have studied for. So, or what I studied. So I remember speaking to the staff, the MLAs, and anyway, cutting the story short, I spoke with the manager and I showed interest. I can't remember the details of that, but eventually he said, "Look, we are trying to create a night shift position." I said, "Yes." And I didn't know how difficult working night shift at that time. Anyway, but what I'm trying to show you is sometimes you have to sacrifice. However, that opportunity was amazing in many ways, which I'm going to elaborate on now. Anyway, that position was made available. So after that, I managed to get the job in microbiology, and it was the best time. It wasn't that busy at that time. I managed to learn. Financially, it was better. Annual leave was better because you don't work the whole week, as far as I remember. Um, However, after sometime it got very tiring, but eventually I moved into a daytime role. The training wasn't going anywhere, so I had to make an important decision to leave and find another opportunity in NHS. I was at my lowest. I remember it was lunchtime. I've been working for a few years, and I said I have to take some initiative. I have to do something. So I called every hospital in London. The problem is I wasn't able to leave London, but at that time, if you go outside London, you can train easier. You can do the portfolio. I was again like most of you looking for a trainee position. I was unsuccessful. I had no lab. Oh God, the whole thing. Anyway, I remember calling every hospital in London, pitching for myself, saying, "Hey, I'm this and that. I want to do the portfolio." I was willing to do it for free. I think 10 said no. By 11 and 12, just outside London, they said yes. So whoever responded quicker, I went for them. So that first lab manager said, "Okay, come and visit me." No, first he said, "Send your CV." I sent you my CV. He said, "Okay, let's meet up." I was willing to work voluntarily, and he said, "Okay, why would you like to apply for an MLA band 3 bank staff?" I had no idea what bank staff meant. He said, "Bank staff, you work through the hospital recruitment, and when there's demand for you, you come and work." Unfortunately, there was a part-time job, but then they needed me Monday to Friday anyway until a position was available. This is was just how things worked out. And a part-time position was available, and then I applied for it. I got it, and because they needed me, I was doing overtime the other 2 days. So I was very lucky. Monday to Friday, it worked for me. Eventually, I got the portfolio after a few years again, but it was the best experience because it was my first ever NHS experience. But before that, when I finished my degree, I had to work. I had to volunteer. I was filing slides or something. I had no idea what I was doing. That was after my biochemistry degree. But then I didn't like this whole biomedical science journey, and it put me off. And then I went to do my master's. Anyway, eventually I got qualified. And then I decided to leave and go back to London. There was a job waiting for me. Actually, I was very lucky. I got a band 5 position after qualifying, because I'm going to be honest, as I promised, this episode is going to be very honest. Sometimes if you qualify in the same place that you're working as an assistant, you will not be looked at as a biomedical scientist. They will still expect you to do certain duties that an assistant does. And this is not based on my experience, this is based on other people's experience. And this was a turning point for me where I wanted to say, you know what, I'm moving on. I like to expand my experience and start fresh again. So I went back and I worked in a private lab, the same private lab, but after they expanded. So it was very scary position because because they've gone, they've taken more work. However, it was the best for me because I've learned in a very short time what would have taken me longer if I was in the NHS. I'm going to speak about the difference between both in later on, just in few seconds. So it was the best experience for me. I'm glad I did. I had a short career break. I've declined the first band 5 that I got for two reasons. Number one, it was too far. And number two, I didn't feel like I want to do any work now because I was running after the same goal. I wanted to get that goal of becoming qualified. So once I got qualified, I was exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. I knew I needed to take a break. So I had to decline that job. But before I left the previous job, let them know that I got a job. So I left as a winner. No hard feelings, but sometimes you have to take certain decisions even when it's not clear. And that was my first unintentional career break. I wanted a career break, but I didn't know where it was. I just knew that I needed to step back and just observe because I was for years running after the same goal. So now I've reached it. I was like, okay, where do I go from here? So then COVID hit. 2021, I made the decision I need to do something. It was just a turning point, and that's what I mentioned in this my second book. So I made the decision to resign, which was a shock to everybody. But my personal opinion was I need to sort out my life. I just needed to take a break. Um, and then I decided to become self-employed. I took a couple of months. I took some. That was my second career break, but it was a good one because I needed again to reflect on a lot of things and I've been self-employed ever since. It's been 2 years and a half now. So how is my experience as an MLA? Because I know a lot of people who are biomedical science graduate or students are aiming for that. Um, Mostly, like I mentioned in a previous video, it's videos even that how to guarantee to get a band five biomedical scientist job. However, in my opinion, and what a lot of people said as BMSs, when you're a medical laboratory assistant, you gain loads of skills because there's no difference between the MLA and a BMS except the reporting. And this was what one of my managers said to me. So when you have been an MLA, no matter how short that period is, it helps you once you become scientist. For example, when I'm in a lab, I know how samples are processed. So if I, depending on the trust, for example, in the private lab where I was working, there was a system where the samples are filed. So if I need something that needs to be repeated, rather than me asking an assistant, say if I'm just finishing my job now and I'm going through in the things that are not completed or something, and I need to process this again, rather than going through somebody, I can quickly get it, process it, send it, get it processed. So I know I can, the next day I can report it or my colleague can report it. So that's where the skills matters. So don't underestimate being assistant, no matter how short, because it gives you that mindset on how things are processed. So because it's part of also as a scientist job, because sometimes, like my first guest said, sometimes you could be by yourself and you need to process the work, you need to book the samples and you need to process them. So it's very important. So for me, my own personal opinion, being an assistant has helped me so much once I became a qualified scientist. So that's my honest opinion. So if a graduate out there who's contemplating and saying, no, 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 do it. Even if you do it for a short time, it's worth it. Even if you're not going to work in a lab, like like I mentioned previously, do it because those skills, which I'm going to elaborate on, will matter in your career. $1 question. I get that asked all the time, and I want you to take this table away and have a look at it. As I said, for me, private has helped me to accelerate my career because unfortunately, it took me longer to progress. So, working in private, I've learned quicker. I progressed quicker than if I was working in a comfortable environment. However, the NHS has its perks. So let's have a look at them. I've labeled them up, I've organized them in a way, and I've I published an article on that. So now I've converted the article to that. So I'm going to reproduce the article now, being self-employed and seeing it more now from different angles. So I'll be reflecting on that soon. So in terms of learning and development in the private sector, yes, it is fast-paced because it's a profit-making sector, and self-driven, yes. For example, when I was getting trained, I was very lucky because I was in that environment before, so I knew certain individuals who I knew they can help me. So I used to stay with them behind, or stay with them. And in terms of technology, yes, you get the latest technology, so it is tech savvy environment. I've seen some nice machines that have been installed, and I was lucky enough to see how they were installed and the whole process. So you get exposed to loads of projects, which is fantastic. And because it's more frequent compared to the NHS, which is more structured and traditional, so it's, I always get asked which is better, private or sector, or public. I would say it truly depends on you. For me, I enjoyed both. I was very lucky to start first in private, so it was much quicker for me to be in the NHS. So each of them have the pros and cons. I'm not criticizing neither of them. But again, it depends on you. But in terms of progression, it's good to try both. So flexibility, yes, is high in the private and less flexible in the NHS. And I've noticed as well, in terms of staffing, there's more staff in the private, so there's less pressure compared to. But the workload, they're very very similar. This is something I've noticed. It's just the same. Yeah, technology, like we said, digitalization, they're both similar. Yes, I've seen certain tests that we stopped using in the private. For example, the slides. I got so used to them being done in a machine, but in the NHS, they use the gram machine the manual way. So that's one of the things where I was like, oh my God, it's not like I forgot, but you will remember. But I was shocked when I saw that there's certain things that so certain things can be different. Um, in terms of job security, I haven't seen that. There are unions, so and you're not gonna get fired like people keep saying. Um, but you need to have a thick skin. Yeah, that's true. But I personally had no problems. Truly, truly, I have to be honest with you. Um, yes, it can be competitive in the private. So if I just tell you what the private is and the NHS is just the opposite or different in contrast. It is rapid in terms of career. Yes, you progress quicker. Lifestyle, yes, again, it varies. And there is misconception in terms of job security and stability. Yes. Um, and there are opportunities, yes, because you've got different companies, you have visitors. I saw that more being in the private. In the NHS there are activities, but like in terms of international, it's different. So I must say, being in the private, it's worth having that experience, especially if you're beginning your career. Yeah, and then as you can see, the NHS there. I worked back in the NHS when I was getting trained to become a biomedical scientist. That was my experience. And now, since I became self-employed, I'm working for the NHS. So it's very, very, it's good to have both experiences to make up your own mind. But if you're new to the career, start in private. And you never know, you might like it. I know people who stayed there for years. I know people who came back, like myself, and they stayed there. So, would I ever go back? Yeah, why not? So, again, this is my conclusion uh, for you to take away and look at it. So, in terms of preference, yeah, private is more dynamic. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset or growth mindset, it's fantastic. And yes, you will be exposed to cutting edge technology. The public sector is stable, is very comfortable, is structured. Yes, I agree. And it is team orientated. Yeah, people help each other. Where I am at the moment, people do work together and they will help each other. Personal experience, um, you need to be adaptable. Very, very important. You have to have that flexible mindset and growth mindset in order to survive. And I do value the experiences that I've in terms of the technology. When I started my career, I started with technology. So I was very, very lucky to work with the high tech when I first started my career as an assistant. Okay, I would say these three things very important: continuous learning, being adaptable and resilient, and flexible. These are all together. And you need to embrace technology. You will hear people when they say, oh, technology is going to take away our jobs. No. Uh, this is, see, as I said, I'm going to be very transparent. I wish I overcame the fear of failure. I was so scared to leave my comfortable job and be without a job because it was very scary at that time. Because you just graduated, you want a job, you want to have some sort of income, you've invested so much in your studies, so you want to have a job. And I wish I knew the importance of seizing the opportunity. Like I mentioned in the last few videos, don't wait for the opportunity, create that opportunity. And appreciating work and growth, this applies to any career, not just in biomedical science. What would be my advice to anybody who is interested to do biomedical scientist? In a previous video, I spoke about the 10, you know, things that you need to know. And one of them I said was the financial stability, because you will hear people say that you don't you don't earn much. However, it's a stable job. Compared to the corporate world, they won't get rid of you. You've got that registration, so you at least you guarantee few years to have a salary and live a life, whether you're starting a family or you want to travel or just have a job that gives you that paycheck every month. So that's one of the advantages of having a decent job which you have studied for. I'm not selling it to you, but I'm talking from my own experience. And in terms of the money, that's another story on its own. So I've already said my opinion about that. But I want to talk within that field. You've studied, you've got a degree, you've got a job within your field. So this is, some people might disagree with me, but from what I have seen and my own experience, at least I've had few years where I've had a salary, I've done what I wanted to do, and then now I want to grow and grow. That's it. That's the word. I don't want to bombard you with a lot of information. But in terms of advice for aspiring biomedical scientists, you need to be proactive, which I mentioned in a previous video. These are from my own lessons that I have learned. Understand the competitiveness. It's competitive job market. It's super competitive now. And make sure that you use the direct approach, which we've elaborated on, like pitching for yourself, etc. So, as I mentioned in a previous video, again, check my other videos with all the things that I've spoken about. I'm just sharing from my experience. That's how this content was created. Consider all the other experiences that you can get, which I wasn't aware of. So, internships, work placement, shadowing, volunteering, part time work, doing locum, doing bank, all of these are experiences and they will add up. And I said in a previous video how to apply for opportunities. Make sure that you're active, not just only on career portals, LinkedIn. I'm telling you, since I've invested on LinkedIn after qualifying, which I should have done before, things have changed. The opportunities are just amazing, and the people that you connect with that will help you grow. Um, so yes, register with job portals and all that, but I really recommend the second part of pitching, or like I mentioned, the new term that I have introduced you to in the previous video, speculative approach or speculative application, where you just directly email the hiring manager and inquire. And again, I wish I've learned about this, about the work experience in terms of the work culture in the UK. This is what I have learned, that working in the labs or in the UK in general is fast paced, it's always busy, and you experience to work with automation and technology firsthand, which is fantastic. And working well with people is very, very important. Like I said in the previous video, my first job interview for my first scientific job, they were talking about the importance of teamwork. And then this is what I have shared. I'm just resharing that slide just for context and for you to take away in case you're a first visitor to my channel. But in previous videos, I've spoken about this, but I want you to, I wanted to put it under my own experience. Again, these are the skills that I've learned as a biomedical scientist, and it has benefited me a lot to develop my own entrepreneurial mindset. So I'm really grateful for all those skills, because these are the future skills that we need at the moment. Having that practical skills, analytical skills, being a fantastic communicator. You can work alone or work with people, being patient, accurate, efficient, being able to prioritize work. I can do that in my own life. Having that flexibility and adaptability, and yes, working under pressure, and at the same time being able to save lives, and attention to detail and IT. Interesting, because when I see something, like if I'm with people who are non-scientists, I always have the analytical look. I've already analyzed the whole situation compared to my other non-scientist friends or acquaintances. So it's so interesting, because you've already developed that mindset of you can just suss this, you've got analyze this. So I think this comes, you develop that mindset anyway, and the quickness in making decisions, just under pressure. All this I think came from my own personality as a scientist. So it benefits you in the long run. That's my honest. So the future of healthcare, I like anything that's futuristic is my favorite. So bear that in mind, that not just the job market that's evolving, the healthcare is evolving as well, and laboratory medicine, let's say healthcare in general. So yes, technology, AI, automation, data, all of this, it's causing this big evolution, which is fantastic. I see that as there's loads of opportunities, but you have to have that mindset of looking what the opportunities are. For example, when I said about the content creating, it's growing because there's work that's happening, so we need to share it with the world. How we can share it? We need to write it, or whatever form we use. So it's not a threat, there is an opportunity. Augmentation, is going to be part of our lives or part of our work. It's not going to take away our jobs. So this is a myth, and I've been on this for the last 2.5 years, and I've seen it. I still do. I still go places and see. So I truly believe there will be new roles, there will be skills required. It's up to you how to see how your skills are applicable to any new opportunity that is out there. Like I've seen people who moved into project management or sales, or there's loads of things. So being a biomedical scientist is a starting point. This is what I see. Don't just land on it and get comfortable. If you're happy there, good for you. If you feel like you want to grow, you can. You're not going to drop all your skills away and take it. Some people, for example, go into medicine, for example. For me, I've got a certain vision which I'm still working on. If you follow me on social media, you'll see what I'm working on. You have an idea, and I'm sure I'll share with you like an update later on where I've gone, or where did my vision take me. Either way, I'm enjoying the journey. That's all I know. So again, these are few things that I have discovered, like precision medicine, um, telemedicine, or the automation of administrative work, assistant doctors, and all of these things are, that's where the opportunity is created by technology. So it's making life easier for us, not taking away jobs from us. So this is what I like to share as well. How if there's a challenge there, how can we prepare and thrive? um th- by the way, all of these things I'm sharing with you is what I've worked on, what I have researched and shared with you. That's why I decided to be as transparent as possible and share with you what I think, so at least you know why am I so passionate about this field. Because I'm against of staying just in the lab. I think you, as a healthcare professional, potential healthcare professional, you have a role outside in society. It's up to you how to have that role. And this is what I stand for as well. So make sure that you embrace lifelong learning. This is what I have learned. And I always think because of technology, sectors will interact, there will be cross disciplinary skills, and always have an open mind to new roles. And from that, you focus on your soft skills. I don't know if I should share this story, but I've seen a real life experience, fairly recent. Somebody who is a biomedical scientist moved into something else, and they've taken the skills into a role that will match their lifestyle. Not just one, I've seen several. So the message I want to share with you guys is not the end of it. What, you became a biomedical scientist? Great. You don't want to be a biomedical scientist and you've done biomedical science? There's other things that you can do. This is a global vision that I want you to appreciate and take away from I it's 2025, we're 2024. But anyway, it's applicable. 50% of jobs will disappear faced, and that's caused by coronavirus, and because of the economic impact caused by it. We will need almost every skill. You sometimes you need to upskill, have new skills, or you need to reskill. So I want you to take that away, because I use that as my own reminder on how far I'm going when I review my career. These are the skills that AI will never replace: emotional intelligence, creativity, leadership, critical thinking, communication, flexibility, adaptability, empathy, cultural intelligence, decision making, strategic thinking, intuition, negotiation, human resilience, humor, resilience, self awareness. These skills cannot be replaced. So you can thrive and grow once you appreciate that. And on top of all of that, you have to know yourself. That's why I love journaling. I never used to journal, but journaling, that's where it led me to publish my books, where I've shared all of my things there. And this what leads me to the next point. And I always have this in my talks. I always say, always have a success journal. Track your record or track your things, your life in general. I do it weekly, monthly, quarterly, every 6 months. So at the end of the year, I've already got. I've shared in one of my videos on how I do it. I might reshare it again, an updated version, but that helped me a lot. And networking. Nobody talks about the importance of networking, whether virtually or in person. That goes a long way because you build, connections, and it's amazing. Like starting with LinkedIn is so interesting. Yes, it's hard when you're doing full-time job, but this is how I decided to become self-employed, because I can take time off when I want to. And all of this will help you with your career progression, and then will lead you to think that it's not depending on your degree alone and your experience alone. It's beyond that. That way, I believe you can stay ahead of the game in the competitive market. And this is my favorite quote. Um, to stay relevant, you have to be at the top of all what's new around you and the changes around you. This is one of the best ones, and that will make you think about your skills, how you can succeed in the job market. Always think about yourself. Am I an addition? Rather than begging for a job, you'll be asked for a job. You'll be asked for to apply. Now, the million-dollar question. Million-dollar question: is it worth doing biomedical science career? As I said, it gives you that balanced lifestyle, at least for a few years, um, and constant salary, puts food on the table, like my previous guest said. Yes. Um, However, I would always think you need to embrace change and continuous learning, because the way things are going now, you have to have those skills: adaptability, flexibility, growth mindset will help you a lot. So, is it worth it? I would say yes. Um, Depending on you. For me, it was better. As I said, I wish I got rid of, the limiting beliefs that I had. Maybe that would have saved me few years and I would have been braver. But, lessons are taken away from that experience. Final thoughts: embrace the opportunities. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Make sure that you continuously learning and challenging yourself. And this is what I appreciated when COVID hit and everybody was comfortable. I decided to be busy, and I've applied for a postgraduate study in healthcare management, and that kept me occupied. And it was my first ever optional professional journey. I was so proud of myself, and it kept me occupied, and it gave me that outer perspective on my role in not just in healthcare but in society. So, as I said, having that job gave me, the benefits of, um, how can I say? It gave me the financial stability, 100%, but then I didn't want to be comfortable and I've challenged myself. So, having a balanced perspective is important. Looking forward, I would say these two words: innovate and adapt, because the future of healthcare is evolving. And make sure that you are part of that healthcare and part of the opportunities. Personal growth, match your career with your lifestyle and values. So take these two away from me and you will live in peace. That's what I would say. So there you go, guys. As I said, it's intense, and I like to put as much as information there. And make sure you watch my other videos if you haven't, because it will make sense on what I'm advocating for and what I'm pressurizing you guys to appreciate, whether you're a graduate or new or just thinking about your career in general. This is very important, and I shared my honest opinion. However, I would like to share this takeaway message for you guys. Any career requires continuous learning if you want to have that lifestyle matching your career and your aspirations, because it's always going to be like that. The job market is always is going to be competitive. In my personal opinion, ever since I took matters in my own hands and the way I want to live in terms of in general, I found that peace. So that's why I truly believe you can create your career, but you have to understand it doesn't only rely on your education. It doesn't only rely on your experience. Yet you need, as well as that, to have the growth mindset and to continuously learning. So it's a whole package, and on top of that, you have to know who you are. So in my honest opinion, I don't regret it. However, I wish I did ABC, as I mentioned in the video. So I hope you guys benefited from it. So stay tuned to more content, but again, share as much as information that you want. If there's something you want me to elaborate on or whatever, carry on the conversation, because the job market will always be competitive, and as I say always, is super competitive now. It's not gonna get any easier. So if you don't follow what I tell you, you're gonna struggle or you're gonna be frustrated. We all have our commitments, by the way. I'm not a free person, but you have to learn how to prioritize. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I hope you benefited from it. Stay tuned to more guests and more stories that I'll be sharing with you guys, and more content. So until next time, keep shining and keep inspiring, and see you next time.